The views that are expressed on What's on Edigga's Mind are that of the show's host and does not necessarily reflect the views of BS3 TV Network. Viewer discretion is advised. What is good? What is good? What is good, good people? It is a beautiful, beautiful day right here in Baltimore. And you know what time it is? It is What's on Edigga's Mind. That's right. Right here in the studio, as you can see. And I need to say this right now. If you catch me doing this, I'm looking at my monitor right there. The monitor is there. My camera is here. If I look up, I'm looking at my monitor. Okay. Got that out of the way. Today, we celebrate the fathers all across the world. So this one is for you, dads. That's right. Good day. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers, stepfathers, uncles, grandfathers, those individuals who had a very intricate part in your upbringing. That's right. As much as I love this day, I just want to say a special heavenly shout out to my dad, Ernest Elton Harris Sr., uh, the man who created me, who taught me everything I know, from saving money to dressing to getting my hair cut, because I did not like getting my hair cut. Every time it was like, it's time to get your hair cut. I'm like, no, I don't want my hair cut. So heavenly shout out to you, Dad, for teaching me life lessons, showing me life lessons, and just being present in my life. And to all of you who have your father around physically, even if he is not here on earth physical, he is here in your heart. He lives right here in your heart. This episode is special because of my special guest. He is the founder and host of the Fatherhood Challenge. He will be joining me momentarily. I had a chance, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero. He will be joining me, and what's so special about him is he hit me up and he wanted me to come on his podcast, and it was a great experience. We had a chance to share some stories, share some memories about my dad. And he asked me questions, and it was a conversation, and it was a beautiful conversation. And one thing that I picked out, and I'm gonna play this clip, is the dad joke. And this dad joke, I told the story about my name. You ever bump into people that have, like Ben Johnson the third or Ben Johnson Jr.? Well, my name is kind of unique, and I tell that story. So here it is. Check it out.
Oh, we're going to start things off. I have a really fun guest with me. Just a great experience and all. I met him a few weeks ago and we had a great talk. He has a great story to share, a lot of wisdom, and I think you're going to benefit greatly from listening to what he has to say. And his name is Ernest Harris, and he's got quite a background himself. He is the the CEO and the managing editor of Charm City Direct TV, and also the executive producer at WLEO 26.7 online radio. Did we miss anything else?
No, spot on. Spot on.
All right. Well, true to tradition, I like to start things out with a favorite dad joke. So, what is your favorite dad joke?
So the favorite dad joke is my name. Of course, every father, or some fathers, I should say, uh, would like to pass on the name, like for example, a Charles Jr. or Derek Jr. or something like that, the third or Junior. So believe it or not, my godfather, I never knew this man's name. Never knew this man's name, and he lived right next door to me. And my dad is named Ernest Elton Harris Sr. And one day I came outside and Mr. Jones, that's what we called him, but of course his name was Ernest Jones. I didn't know his first name. And I said, "Mr. Jones, what is your first name?" And he laughed. He laughed. He chuckled a little bit and he said, "I'm surprised that you don't know." And I said, "Well, if I knew, I wouldn't be asking you." And he said, "My first name is your name." And I said, "Ernest?" And he said, "Yeah, my first name is Ernest." And I said, "Wow, we have the same name." And then when I went in the house, I said, "Wait a minute. My father's name is Ernest." That's okay. So it all makes sense now. My dad, my godfather, I could just imagine how it was in the hospital delivery room. My father is like, we need to pick a name. We need to pick a name. Okay, well, let's call him Ernest. Okay, well, why is that? My godfather is Ernest. Your name is Ernest. Crazy. So I am Ernest Harris. To be considered a junior, uh, they said uh, you have to have your dad's whole name, which is Ernest Elton Harris. But unfortunately, like I said, I don't know what was going on in the delivery room because on my birth certificate it says Ernest Junior Harris. So I'm like, did they mean Ernest Harris Jr.? Like, is Junior my middle name? Like, were y'all drunk? That's right, good people. That was the Fatherhood Challenge podcast with founder and host, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero, who I'm going to bring in right now. You know how I get. I start talking and lose my train of thought. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero, how you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. And I got to say, it is an honor to be on your program. You're doing amazing work.
Thank
And
you.
as I'm sitting there just listening to that, I'm reliving that moment and just how much fun it was having that conversation with you.
It was fun. It was actually one of the best interviews or appearances that I've been on. It was just something about that interview was just smooth. Um, since from day one when you contacted me and we went over, the questions, and then the actual, day of recording the podcast, it just felt smooth. No hiccups. um it was just a smooth, flow transition. So I want to
Hmm.
say again, personally, thank you for allowing me to come on and talk about fatherhood. um
Absolutely.
Something that we need to talk about all the time. That's just not today on June 19th. And that is the topic today. The true meaning of fatherhood. What does it mean to be a father? And one of the reasons why I brought you on is because of your podcast and your business. So for the people out there who don't know, tell them a little bit about the Fatherhood Challenge. What is it all about? How long you've been doing it? All that good stuff.
Well, it started in October. So as of this live stream, it actually hasn't been on very long.
Hmm.
But for where it is at this point, it should not be as far as it has progressed.
Right.
And I think that's a testament to the fact that it's meeting a need, a really big need.
Right.
Now, it all started with a conversation between my wife and I. I was at a point in my life where I felt like I was not a very good father at all.
Mm,
And I vocalized that opinion to my wife. I told her that flat out. I said, I really don't think I'm a very good father.
mm.
And she didn't really say anything at this point, but we had a second conversation and we were driving together the next day. And just out of the blue, I mean, we didn't talk about my comment, but just out of the blue, she just said, you should start a podcast.
Wow.
And I thought it was a joke. I thought she has a great sense of humor.
Mhm.
There's no way I would do something like this. I had no desire to do it. I had no intention of doing it. And so I just flat out asked her, I said, exactly what is it that you think I have to talk about?
Mm,
And she just looked right over at me and she just said, fatherhood.
mm.
And that really took me by surprise.
Wow.
It bothered me. It bothered me for days. And that's when, you've got something that inside of you, it's that still small voice that is just nagging at you and nagging at you, and you can't explain what it is till
Right.
you finally come to terms of it. It really can't be anything else but the Holy Spirit speaking to you, bothering you, just bugging you, and you realize you're up against something that is much, much greater and much bigger than yourself.
Right. Right.
And that's when I started to realize I was coming face to face with purpose,
Mm.
with understanding purpose. And so I made a deal with God. And the deal was this: you run things, this is your thing, you do your thing with this. And if you do that, I'll be the grunt. I'll do the grunt work. I'll do the editing, I'll do all the physical stuff that has to do, but
Wow.
you have to do everything else.
Wow.
And so you know what? I kept my end of the bargain. I still keep my end of the bargain. And you know what? He's kept his end. He has not failed me. He's not dropped the ball on it at all. And I say that because I can see, as I look back, I see nothing but his leading. And what I see is that his hand is directly on this because this subject is so important. So the motto, if you look on the website, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com and you look right on the front page,
Right.
it is Malachi 4:6, which is turning the hearts of fathers to their children.
Right.
So every effort that I do, every single thing I do, I measure against those words. If I've done that, if I've turned the hearts of fathers to their children in one episode, then I did my job. I did what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
I fulfilled my purpose for that episode.
That's awesome.
And that's what it's all about. It is literally that simple. There's so many things to talk about, and we're going to get into it, I know, today, talking about what it means to be a father. There's so much that goes into that, and no one is talking about it.
Right.
And
Right.
that's something that has to change. We have to talk about it within our homes. We have to talk about it with each other. And that's something that is the difference between whether our societies prosper or not. It
Right.
is it is something to take very, very, very seriously.
Right. Right. Did at one point in your life you ever thought that you would not be a father?
You know what? Yes, there were times when I had such serious doubts that I wondered if I ever could be a father. And that has to do with my own upbringing, my own background.
Right.
I grew up without a father around in my life.
Right.
And so I always had a deep seated fear that because I did not have that example around me, that I would be a terrible father
Mm.
or that I would make the exact same mistakes that my biological father made. And that's not something I wanted to pass on. And so I did have those fears
Right.
and those concerns put the thought in my mind, in the back of my mind, that maybe this isn't something I should do. Maybe this isn't something I would be good at for that reason.
Right. Right. The reason why I say that is because I had that same mentality when I was growing up, and I wasn't ashamed to say it. And I said, "I'm not gonna have children." And everybody that I talked to, I said, "I'm not gonna have children." And one day, my my brother who passed on, uh, appeared in a dream. And in the dream, and, I tell this to everybody, he predicted the birth of my son. And the colors that he had on everything was baby blue. Everywhere in the dream was baby blue. He had on a baby blue onesie and a like a hat, a pimp hat. And the car we was driving in was baby blue. And if anything didn't stick out, it was that color. It was that color, that bold color. So the next day I went to work and I wanted the mission. I was on a mission. I said, I want to know one, okay, he appeared in the dream, and what was the significance about this color? Because it was just a bold color. And I said, I asked the dream interpreter, which I found online. I said, my brother has passed on. And she said, "Do you dream about him often?" And I said, "Yes." Were you guys close? I said, "Yes." So all the pertinent questions got out the way. And then I said, "Wait, there's a color associated with this." And she said, "What was the color?" And I said, "Baby blue." She said, "Hmm." And she paused for a minute. I had to say, "Hello, you still there?" And she said, "Do you have children?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, there's your answer." I said, "Wait, wait, 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 wait." I said, "What's the answer?" She said, "You don't have children, right?" I said, "No, I don't have children." She said that was his way of telling you that you're going to have a son. I said, "Wow." I said, "Okay, why?" She said, "Because you took his death hard and he needed you to take the focus off of him into something else that you would love." Oh my goodness. When she said that, I was like, "No, no, 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 no." Went home. A couple of weeks after that, my son's mom, uh, I'm sick. I'm at work and my stomach is doing some cartwheels and flips and all sorts of stuff. And my secretary at the time, she said, "Mr. Harris, you don't look good. You need to go home." I said, "No, no, I'm good." She said, "No, you don't look good. You need to go home." So I went home. I'm sitting on the end of the bed, holding my stomach, and my son's mom walks in and says, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Man, my stomach," and that's rare for me, to get sick or something is wrong with my stomach. I said, "I don't know. It's just this weird feeling." She said, "Oh, butterflies, feeling a little nauseous." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I'm pregnant." And I said, "Oh my God." Now, mind you, I never told her about the dream. Never told her about the dream. And I was just in shock that she would just pull out this pregnancy test and before my face and like, "You're pregnant." I mean, she's pregnant. And I was in so much denial. I was like, She ain't pregnant." And when her belly got big, I said, "Oh, she's just gaining weight. She just eating a lot. She gaining weight." And when it got overly big, I said, "Oh man, she's pregnant for real. this is real. And when my son was born, it was like, man, I'm a dad. I am somebody's father. And my whole life completely changed right after that. So going from I'm not having kids to I am now a father is like, wow, the dream was right, you know. And it was, man, like in the delivery room to coming home, taking care of this little human was just a shock. And all I kept saying was, I am somebody's dad now. And that's it. And I carried that throughout the years. Carried that throughout the years. So the word fatherhood, it takes on a very special meaning for me, as we shared on your podcast about how my father interacted with me and some of the things that he did with me, I did with my son. And it was kind of like, no thought process. It was like the same thing he used to do with me, I did with my son. And the old cliche of what you hear, parents don't come with a handbook or some instructions. That's true. And they don't. And it was plenty of times where my mom, by by the way, is deceased as well. It was many a times I wanted to call my mom and say, "Mom, you know, I don't know what I'm doing." He won't stop crying. Is he hungry? And I couldn't do that. And fortunately, my son's mom, she had a daughter. She has a daughter. So she kind of know what's going on, but it was kind of a couple of nights where I was left in the house with him by myself and I didn't know what to do. And that's when, it had to come quick, you know, to know what is wrong. What is he crying about? Do I burp him? Do I feed him? What do I need to do? So you as a father, uh talk about that for a minute. Like your first child, how many children do you have, first of all?
I have two children. One is 7 and one is 10.
Okay. So your first child is like, what was that experience like? Your very first child. Like, did you know what to do? Like, what was it like having your first child?
A lot of anxiety.
Okay.
A lot of what and as you're sitting here telling me and describing your experience to me, I'm reliving my own experience because in a lot of ways it was very similar in that I felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
There is no manual. There is nothing to
Nothing.
just and we're guys. We think logically. We have
Yeah.
to have a manual for everything. Everything has to make sense. Everything has to be clear. And it just doesn't work that way a lot of the times. And and as you're sitting there and you're telling me your story and you're describing to me just that, how there's no manual for this and whatnot. I'm sitting here in my head thinking, I wonder why that is.
Mm.
Why was this whole thing designed and set up without a manual for us to consult to
Right.
figure these things out?
Right.
Why do we have to figure things out experientially?
Right.
And I think it is, if I have to venture a guess, I would say, because it is the difference between something that is very binary and something that is on and off switches, something that is very cold
Right.
as far as problem solving,
Right.
and something that is very relational.
Right.
Because to figure out why that child is crying in the first place, The very first thing you have to do, and the first thing it demands of you, is empathy,
Mm.
which means you have to go to your child. You have to be involved. You have to get off the couch. You have to get out of your seat and go do something. It may not be the exact thing that's going to solve it, but you have to get up and do something.
Right.
And the very next thing that you have to do has to be with your child. It can't be going to a computer and let me go Google what's wrong.
Right.
Let me get out my phone and let me see if I can figure it out.
Right.
It's no, go to your child. That is the very first thing.
Right.
And that is where the connection, that is where everything, that is the center. That is where everything happens, the relationship, the bond, everything.
Right.
That first touch aspect of it. And so anyway, I'm a new parent. I don't have a clue what to expect. And at that point, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, there is a very deep-seated nervousness and anxiety where
Mm.
I'm just feeling completely unprepared and every insecurity is starting to fire off.
Right.
And there is no expert, there's no manual.
Mm.
And you just have to jump in there and you do it.
Right.
And that's what I did. But I have to say the one thing that I insisted on from the very beginning was that I wanted the very, very first touch sensation that my son felt when he came into the world for the first time.
Right.
I wanted it to be me.
Mm.
There was no compromise there. And so when it was time, I'm sure I made all of the nursing staff and everybody that was in the room, the delivery room at that time, I'm sure I made them nervous. But, whatever, I didn't care. That this was
Right.
non-negotiable. This was going to happen this way. There was no other alternative.
Right.
And so I was there. And when he came out, my hands were there, and he was the very first thing my son felt as he came into the world
Mhm.
were the hands of his father.
Mm.
And I still remember to this day, I scooped him up and I held him, and he just did a quick scan around the room and then looked up at the ceiling, and then his
Right.
eyes just rolled right over to me,
Mm.
and he just looked right up at me.
Mm.
And something indescribable happened at that moment.
Wow.
And the best way to describe it in words, in English words, is a bond.
Right.
It's about as best as I can describe it. A very, very strong bond that exists to this day.
Right. Right.
So
Wow.
everything after that centers around that one event. The rough times when you have to discipline, the times when you are exhausted and they want to do something with you.
Right.
It's all comes back to that moment. It's purpose, it's everything.
Right.
They are a part of you in a way that it is incredibly special. It is a gift.
Yes.
It is nothing short of a gift. And that's something we have to change in how we are seeing children. Instead of seeing them as a burden to us, as an inconvenience,
Mm.
as dads, we have to learn to see them as a gift.
Right. I was listening to the radio today. I was going somewhere, and the person that was talking, he said on Father's Day, and unlike Mother's Day, mothers want to have like a free day. They want to, not be bothered, have a me day of some sort. But fathers want their children around them. And I found that to be very, it was interesting that he said that, like for me, it's like Father's Day. I want my family around me. Let's do some family stuff. um and that was quite interesting what he said. Had to have his children around him, his child or children around them, around him on Father's Day. And I just had to share that. We're going to go to this quick break. Coming back more with what's on Edigga's mind with my special guest, Jonathan Guerrero. He is the host and founder of the Fatherhood Challenge. Make sure you keep it locked right here because we are going to dig into the topic, the true meaning of fatherhood, right here on what's on Edigga's mind. Don't go nowhere. Much more to come.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Knucklehead Chronicle podcast, the panel edition.
Hey everybody, welcome to Knucklehead Chronicles, the panel edition. Let's go.
What's good, good people, and welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast, panel edition. Let's get ready.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. This is the panel edition. Me, your boy Kevin, Edigga, and Queen, man. We're going to rock the show. Listen, do me a favor. Go to Knucklehead Chronicles podcast.podbean.com. Follow the podcast, man. We really appreciate it.
That's right, good people. Welcome back to the show. Make sure you keep it locked right here on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast with myself, my man, the guru Terry, Quinn, and Kev the Great. We talk about everything under the sun, a little joke, little humor here and there, sports, celebrity news, you name it, we talk about it. All on the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. Joining me right now is my special guest. He is the founder and host of the Fatherhood Challenge, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero. Thank you so much, sir, again for coming on the show.
Glad to be here. Absolutely glad to be here.
Now we're going to get into the topic, the true meaning of fatherhood. What is it? What is fatherhood? What is the true meaning of being a father? And I shared a lot of stories about my father, our interaction, our bond. Um, Unfortunately, he is not here physically. He is in my heart. Think about him every single day and what he has instilled in me and preparing me to be the man who I am now. Uh, Having a job, taking care of my family, making sure that my family is safe, saving money. Those are the just some of the things that he taught me when I was growing up. When I had a dollar, Jonathan, I thought that I was the richest person in the world when I was growing up. And he used to tell me all the time, son, don't spend all your money in one place. Save your money. But then I came to the realization that, I had a dollar, and that dollar can go a long way, but there was a lot of stuff that I wanted from the store. So I had a dollar. So I used to just buy. Also he taught me how to dress for the occasion. If you're going outside, put on play clothes. If you're going to an event, dress up. You know, He taught me a lot of stuff. So, with that being said, in your own opinion, what is your definition of fatherhood?
It is a legacy. It is absolutely a legacy. And as a father, you have an enormous amount of power that you wield. And with that power, you have the choice to decide whether you're going to use that power for good or whether you're going to do a lot of damage with that power. It is all up to you.
All right.
And that is a legacy. And there's two kinds of legacies you can leave as a result. You can either leave a really bad legacy or you can leave a good one.
Right.
I look to the example, for example, we just had a mass shooting that happened.
Yes.
And everyone is talking about guns. We're talking about everything else. We are talking about everything else but what was going on in the home of the shooter's family. We will do anything to avoid talking about the father
Right.
in the background. And it's not a comfortable place to go, because you have to, and you can't examine that situation and examine what's going on in that home without looking in the mirror and analyzing what's going on in your own home,
Right.
under your own roof.
Right.
And so that's a very uncomfortable place to do that. But that's has to do with a legacy. What kind of legacy did that father leave for his son or his daughters
Right.
who went into the Navy because he wasn't there for them? And yeah, I went there. But that's the other side of it. That's that you can leave that kind of a legacy, or you can leave a legacy, a lasting legacy of a father who is there, who is involved, not just physically. It's not enough to be there physically. It's not enough to just go buy them things. If you have that kind of money in this economy to go buy them things, that's not it
Right.
at all.
It's not.
There has to be an emotional involvement that's here.
Yes. And
And it takes effort, and that takes time.
I said that earlier. You know, fathers who just come by. I call it convenience. Um, and they just come by to drop off money, and you don't see them no more, or come around to see their children when it's convenient for them. Um, I have a problem with that. Now, and the reason why I say that is because, well, maybe, if there's a situation where you cannot see them all the time, but I would take that more than just dropping off money and say, here's $150, and that's it. It has to be an emotional, physical bond with you and your children, or you and your child or children.
Exactly. They don't want your money.
Right.
They want your time, and they want your heart.
Right.
And that's not something that money is going to buy.
Right.
And then the other thing is, fatherhood is very much an unselfish thing. And some days it's going to feel like you bleed dry for them.
Right.
But that's the kind of legacy you want to live. Exactly what is it that you want to pass on? And this gets into a tough area, because trying to define what fatherhood is when you did not have that in your own life growing up modeled for you.
Hmm.
And so there are times when sometimes it's just clicking for you, when you understand it, and you are actually living the role, you are doing it,
Right.
and you're bonding with your kids, you're having a great time, a great moment, everything is wonderful. And then, if you have the type of background I did growing up, where there is no father there, where you had those times
Hmm.
where you just wish, oh man, I wish I had a dad here to teach me how to do this,
Right.
or I wish my dad was around playing ball with me. If you had those painful moments in your life growing up, and then now you're here, you're playing with your kids, and you're engaged, and you're involved with them, you'll have those moments when you're just going to feel a sting inside of you,
Right.
because you're realizing, man, I wish I had, growing up, the parent that I'm being right now to my kids.
Right.
There's a meme that I posted on the Fatherhood Challenge Facebook page, and it's basically a kid that's asking his dad, "Where did you learn? How did you learn to be such a great dad?"
Right.
And the dad replies back to his kid and he says, I'm giving you everything that I wish I had. And that's it. That's what it comes down to. That's the legacy. You give and you give anyway, especially when it wasn't something that you got to have growing up. And it's especially true when it involves your time and when it involves sharing your heart. And that's another thing, sharing your heart. This is a really great thing to do, great idea. And I'm not really sure where I picked up the idea, but I do remember very vividly. I had a lot of things in my heart I wanted to say to my son. And sometimes I'm not always good with words.
Right.
And so if you're not good with words, as in just saying things, sometimes it helps to write them down. So that's what I did. I just grabbed a plain old notebook paper
Mhm.
and I just started writing a letter to my son.
Mm.
And I just opened up my heart. I just shared my heart to him, what I thought about him, how I really felt about him, and just let it all hang out there on paper.
Wow.
And then I just left it in his room for him to find. And he later came by and asked me about it. And he could read some words on it and some he couldn't. So he asked
Right.
me for help reading it.
Right.
And so I opened up that letter and I read it to him. And he seemed a little stunned at what I read him. And he folded up the paper. And I had not heard about it since then until I would say maybe about a year later.
Okay.
We were on a trip together. And it had been a really long drive. We were tired and we decided let's get a hotel and let's just spend the night and let's crash and then finish the drive in the morning.
Right.
So we're just wiped out, we're exhausted, and we're getting ready for bed. And then out of the blue, my son just walks up to me and he grabs his wallet and he opens it up and he pulls out that letter. And he said, Dad, I just want you to know I still have your letter. And yeah, that one hit me right here in the feels.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it means. He will always remember that. He will always know how I feel about him and what I think about him. In the good times in his life, in the rough times in his life, he's got a dad that has his back.
Yeah.
Like he's got me physically and he's got my heart.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And so guess what he's likely to do when it's his turn? And how do you think that changes society? And so we're talking about a father-son relationship, but we
Right.
can talk also about a father and a daughter relationship.
Yes.
And that gets very, very interesting because imagine what it gets to be like when a daughter has had a father in her life who has always been there for her, who has been there on an emotional level with her, who's been through the storms with her, and has been present with her. What does that say and communicate to her about what a stable man is?
Right.
And what do you think that's going to do in her mind when it's time for her to find a partner?
Right.
When it's time to find a husband? That's the standard that she's going to measure men by. And then there's that confidence to go get her dreams, to go after what she wants in life. The belief that she can achieve whatever she puts her mind to it. Who taught her that?
Right.
Who instilled that in her?
Right.
Who was behind her all the time, having her back, making her feel secure, physically and emotionally secure as she was building herself?
Right.
That is so, so important. Imagine how that would change society. As a dad, you have the power to change the world, to change
Right.
society for generations, not through just the epigenetics. It's there too. But you are an example to everyone else around you that sees it,
Right.
that sees the results of it. They're going to want to know, how did this happen? So
Right.
if we had dads who were actually involved with their daughters, with their sons on that level, can you imagine what would happen with the justice system?
Right.
Can you imagine what would happen with the economy? You have the power to change that for generations, for good or for bad. It's up
Right.
to you.
Right.
But here's the thing, and I know that sounds overwhelming, but the good news is you don't have to do this alone.
Right.
You weren't meant to do this alone.
Right.
Nobody was.
Right.
And that's the other thing. And this is why you and I are here talking about this. This is whole reason why we're here. We are not alone. You and I are talking about this right now. We are not alone. We are sharing this with our audience.
Right.
And hopefully our audience is talking about this too.
Right.
I mean, is there another dad that you need to connect with and reach out to that needs your support,
Right.
that needs you to have their back?
Right. We're going to go to another quick break. Coming back more with what's on Edigga's mind. My special guest tonight is founder and host of the Fatherhood Challenge, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero. Don't go to where. Much more to come. And welcome back to the show. This is What's on Edigga's Mind. I am your host, the man that you all know and love, Edigga. My special guest tonight for the special Father's Day presentation, Mr. Jonathan Guerrero. He is the founder and host of the Fatherhood Challenge. Real quick, where can people find the Fatherhood Challenge? How can people hear episodes on
You can
social media?
go, yes, you can go to the fatherhoodchallenge.com, and from the website, and I'll repeat it again, it's the fatherhoodchallenge.com. And when you're on the website, in the upper right hand corner, you'll see a little Facebook icon. If you click on that, it will also take you to the Facebook group. And this is where you'll see all the other content, and this is where dads can network and talk with each other too, and share what's on your mind.
Awesome. Awesome. And just to add that little clip, that I played earlier, that is from season 1, episode 1 of the Fatherhood Challenge. And it's called Fatherhood in the Barbershop. So you can go there, go to the website. I just posted it down bottom. It's right there. And check out the whole interview in its entirety, and other interviews from the Fatherhood Challenge. We're going to switch gears for a minute, Jonathan, if I can, and ask you, since this is Father's Day, we have a reputation of fathers getting gifts of some sort. What is the best Father's Day gift you received?
I would have to say, okay, this one might make you laugh a little bit.
Okay.
So I was walking out of the bathroom,
Mm.
and my son had been making cookies in the kitchen, whole batch of chocolate chip cookies, which are my favorite cookies. I can't get enough of them.
Wow.
And as I walk out of the bathroom, I almost tripped over a stool. There was a stool on the other side of the door. And when I opened up the door, I looked down, and there's a stool right there. and there's chocolate chip cookies on the stool fresh out of the
Oh.
oven.
Awesome.
That was the best.
Awesome.
That was awesome. And I knew that came right straight from the heart because that took some effort.
Awesome. What is the worst Father's Day gift you received?
Oh well, that one's pretty boring because I can't recall one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the next question is, if you could do this all over again, as far as, you know, having another child, the whole process, staying up late, uh bonding with your children, would you do this again?
Oh, absolutely. In a heartbeat. In a
And
heartbeat.
explain why.
Because children change you.
Right.
It works the other way around. Yes, you change them, and that's called being a parent. But they go in, they change you, and they become a part of you.
Right.
And I have to say, on this side of it, with the two boys I have right now, I cannot imagine a life without them. Even though, yes, I can look back and obviously I can remember before they were born, but that part of my life isn't nearly as good as this part, as this half of it on this side of it
That's
with
what's up.
them involved.
That's what's up. Love
And
it.
the only way you can understand that, I'm not even going to
Right.
explain it more than that, because the only way you're going to understand that is if you've done it already.
Yes. Yes. Hey, people, we're going to take this real quick break. Coming back with the final thoughts right here on what's on Edigga's mind. Don't go nowhere. This is the final thoughts of what's on Edigga's mind. I just want to say, first and foremost, it has been a absolute journey and joy to be a father. For me, like I said, time and time again, and uh, as I tell stories about the way how my father interacted with me and how I interact with my son, I watch my dad a lot, from the time that he picked me up and he bonded with me. He exposed me to different things. And he exposed me to not just everyday things. He exposed me to different different outlooks on life. And I absorbed that. I took that in. And I said, if I was to ever have a child or children, I would want them to see other things, other opportunities, other things other than the norm. So I can honestly sit here and say that being a father, one, changed my life, and two, it has been a very interesting, fulfilling experience. Now I have a message for new fathers, those fathers who are young, those fathers who are on the brink of having children or a child, a son or a daughter. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's help around you. Utilize that help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And when I say afraid, you know, I think it's a man's thing where, we are accustomed to know everything, or we have the answers for everything. No, no, no. I wanted help when I had my son, and when my son's mom wasn't around. It was plenty of times, people, that I wanted to pick up the phone and call someone and ask for help. So my message to you, young fathers, new fathers, don't be afraid to ask for help. And when that help come, don't be so quick to turn them away. They are there to help you. So that is my final thought, my final message. I want to personally, again, for the 100th time, thank Mr. Jonathan Guerrero for coming on to the show today to offer his opinion on this topic, the true meaning of fatherhood. So I thank you again, sir, for coming on the show. And I want to encourage everyone to please support him, listen to his podcast, because it is awesome. It is beyond awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I was a guest on the podcast, but it is a great, great podcast, and you need to tune in. I'm gonna put the website back up. That is the website where you can go and check out previous podcast episodes. Make sure you support him. Hey, everybody, this has been another great episode of What's on Edigga's Mind. Make sure you tune in next Sunday for another great episode. Make sure you tune in at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on BS3 TV. You've been great, as always. And remember, holla at you when I smile at you. Peace.